And I mean, having this opportunity to develop something together, and it's something that I'm very interested in, and I think it's a real opportunity. I will also say a few words, but it's very important, and I would say especially nowadays, because we will focus in Europe, and we know that unfortunately at the moment there is a war in Europe, and we are suffering from consequences of that war, and it's also important that we have this opportunity also to build new things collectively, I would say it's also part of this initiative that we have launched together. So I would first like to thank you for this, and then we will discuss very important topics with sustainability. But I will let the ground first to Professor Thévenet, that will open this session and talk about what we are doing at our university and with respect to international relations. So, Laurent, if you want to say.
Thank you very much. So I'm Laurent Thévenet. I'm the Vice President in charge of the international relation at UPEC. It's a great pleasure to say these few words at the opening of this joint seminar. First of all, I would like to apologize to the president of UPEC, Jean-Luc Dubois-Randé, who was not available today. I would like to briefly introduce UPEC, as Philippe Froutet asked. It is UPEC is the last major university in the Paris region that has not merged with other university. We stay independent, and it is a multidisciplinary university. We strongly support the research activities of our 33 laboratories. We maintain strong relations with many economic partners who offer, for example, a very large number of training courses with a mixed system of academic studies and professional practices in companies. Finally, UPEC is a very international university, the 5th French university in terms of mobility in Europe. We have several double degrees. We prepare a double degree with the University of Osnabrück. I hope we will sign a very in a few months the final agreement. And among the different faculties, the Faculty of Administration and International Exchange is the most international faculty at UPEC. The organization of this seminar is a great example. It is a fantastic initiative to bring together our important partners in this way, partner of Norway, Switzerland, and Germany. Many thanks to the various persons who worked on the preparation of this seminar and to the speakers. And I wish you a very nice seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurent. And I would like also to thank you, because without the support from the international relation unit from UPEC, we couldn't be able to develop all this partnership with the different institutions. So double degrees, study abroad. So we have also have the opportunity to create and to teach together, especially with Peter Meyer, so a class in European integration. And it was a worldwide class, so it was a very also great opportunity. So it's true that it is important for UPEC, and especially for our international school, to be able to develop this partnership. And we are also developing new programs at our international schools, and we face, I would say, new students that would like to be committed and to change the societies they are living in. So And we share this notion of commitment and developing academic excellence with also the Business School of Lausanne. So we have a discussion with respect to this. So it is also good to see that we have common values, and it is thanks to these values that we can develop something together. So and I would say that I hope it will be a first joint seminar, and that we will be able to renew this experience and maybe to extend it to other partners, other continents. So it is also this objective. And I would like also to say a few words. So this joint seminar, so all the presentations will be based on papers that will be published, and we will launch a new journal at our international school. It will be called International Transitions, and it will deal with these new trends, or I would say these new issues that are currently. I mean, we are facing them. So the climate change, notion of sustainability, digital, I mean, transformations and societal transformations. So all the things that are linked with these topics, and that are very important for students and for us as I would say academics, to be able to think about those issues, but also in terms of education, how to provide support to the students in order for them to learn things, but also to develop their own contribution to the society. So it is also an objective that we share, and that we want to I mean to develop, to create together with this notion of academic excellence, which is something that we share also together. Maybe I will let the speakers to introduce themselves, to say a few words where they are coming from, and then we will have 4 presentations today. Perhaps we can start the presentations with our colleagues and friends from Switzerland, from the Business School of Lausanne. And then I don't know if Norway, because you asked if we can maybe plan your presentation later. So just tell me when you prefer to provide it. So if you have any issues with respect to that, so do not hesitate to tell me. Send me a message, and I will plan it accordingly. And we can then have a presentation from Germany, from Peter Meyer, and we will end the presentation from Mme GARROUSTE. And then maybe I will collect questions from the audience, so you can write it on the question and answer that you have on the bottom of the screen, or on the discussion, the chat, and then we will I mean, discuss together, and I will provide the questions to the speaker. So maybe I'm speaking too much. So Professor Clévaz, if you want to introduce yourself, is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be with pleasure. So I'm Dr. David Clévaz. I'm currently acting dean of Business School Lausanne. And before I start introducing Business School Lausanne and myself, ladies first, I want to say a few words about Dr. Dominique Bouchy, who is the Chief Academic Officer of Business School Lausanne, as well as the re-founder and director of the incredibly successful doctoral school that we have around business transformation, entrepreneurship, and sustainable business. So Dominique, if you care to say a few words, and then I will just say a few words myself and BSL, so you can then do what you have to do this afternoon.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much, everybody, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. Today, Dr. Clévaz will be your host and do the talking for this common presentation, but I'm very happy to be able to listen in and to contribute if I can. So it's true that I founded the doctoral school at Business School Lausanne starting in 2019. And we have now more than 70 students, and they all work on business administration and business transformation very specifically. So they all come from the industry. They're between 35 and 55 years old. They have identified the business problem and they want to solve it through academic research. So it's very satisfying intellectually because we have more senior students, business people, and they really know from inside the industry what they want to solve. So just an example, I had a new candidate onboarded this morning. So he's working on supply chain and optimization of supply chain management from a sustainable point of view in the pharmaceutical industry. So they're really very interesting topics related to sustainability, digitalization, entrepreneurship, everything that's transforming businesses and business education today. My other role, as Dr. Kleva said, is the Chief Academic Officer of the school. So I'm in charge basically of the alignment between the Bachelor Master, MBA, Executive MBA, and the doctoral program. So I also look into the content of the other programs, and I work closely with Dr. Chari, whom you've already met, I think, Mr. Fruit. So this gives you an overview. So thank you very much for having me. And David, good presentation. Let's let the colors of BSL fly high.
Thank you, Dr. Bouki. I hope the color of BSL will fly higher than the color of the Swiss national football team, who ended up losing 6-1. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, just a few words about BSL. BSL really started to work on sustainability and sustainable business around 2006. So more than 15 years ago. And we did so by turning and embracing the UN Compact initiative towards sustainability. Also, we are in Lausanne. We're very close to Geneva, that has the European headquarters of the UN. So we were probably in a good position to start doing that. And then basically we made many mistakes trying to teach sustainability. And I think those many mistakes allow me to give you a few maybe better idea this afternoon. I hope so. Right now, what we have changed, but that will be also part of the conversation, but you have also heard it from Dominic Bouki, is to maybe get entrepreneurship closer to sustainability and sustainable business that it ever was. So that's probably the major shift that we have done over the last couple of years. And I just want to also greet this wonderful opportunity to talk in a small panel with small presentation, compact formats, lots of people talking. I think it's going to be a great afternoon. So I'm looking forward to hear all the presentations. Shall I start mine, or should we introduce the other people right now?
So maybe we can introduce everyone, and then I will let you
okay.
present. Yeah. So the Norwegian team.
Yes, I can present myself first, and then my colleagues can present them. Gunnar Andersson. I'm head of the program on innovation and project leadership. We have worked close with UPEC for several years. We have exchanged students and exchanged teachers. And we also are very happy for the new master program at UPEC. And we have informed our students about the possibilities for that. We are a very operative bachelor program. That means that we work very close with industry and researchers. We are very into that you have to have knowledge in your head, but also in your hands. So we have a very practical approach. And we will try to discuss teaching sustainability from that perspective. So we will try to link it to different initiatives, both research and also business, and try to put up a network of contributions that we think we can learn from. As you told us, David, we have made a lot of mistakes on the way, but that's a good way of learning. So maybe my colleagues can say something.
Yes, nice to meet you all. My name is Frode Ramstad Johansen, a colleague of Gunnar, working in the same program. I'm working with the innovation processes and digitalization mostly, and it will take more time than it's now.
Yeah, I'm Lars Tellnes. I'm a PhD student and focusing on life cycle assessment, LCA. So I do a lot of calculations on sustainability, and collaborate also on some teaching some of the courses. That's it.
So they will both be part of the initiatives that we will discuss. So I think it's very relevant that they are here. So we look forward to hear more from you. So that's for us.
Thank you. So there is Camille that is also part of the. Maybe you want to say a few words. Or...
Yes, well, thank you for welcoming me today. Actually, I met Gunnar last September in Norway in the Lighthouse Week, where we discussed social sustainability. And so so thank you for welcoming me. And I'm a associate professor in geography at University of La Rochelle, except now I'm on a leave because I went sailing I work on the ocean. So I went sailing to try to explore more and do interviews and discover new maritime cultures. And so it was also part of my research and my project to just go at sea and find what were the environmental issues, mainly, and the social issues on different islands. I've been teaching a lot integrated coastal zone management, the evaluation of the state of the environment, landscape ecology. And in La Rochelle, the lab is interdisciplinary. So I was also responsible of different master courses linked to environment with biologists, management, physics and chemists, and geographers and historians. And now I'm in Norway by, that's a bit of a coincidence. It's a long story, but I ended up in Norway linked with boat building matters, because I'm in the Caribbean, in Grenada, Kayaku. I was trying to see how boat building could be, because they're losing their traditions, and how that can be the link between environmental sustainability and cultural aspects. And so I went in Fredrikstad because of I have a big maritime center now there, and I'm making projects there with her. So I submitted a project with the French embassy, and I'm linking a project with Isigran and now also with Gunnar that I will meet in January with Innovation School.
So thank you. So now we can let the floor to Professor Meyer from Osnabrück.
Yes, my name is Peter Meyer. I'm a professor for international economics in Osnabrück at the University of Applied Science. And I have dealt with sustainability issues actually since the 90s. I always claim here in our internal discussion, I was the first to publish something on sustainability in 1991. But I will try to reflect on what is the discussion actually here in Germany concerning teaching higher sustainability in higher education. And my main point is actually, if we really want to do it in a convincing way, then the governance structure of the universities needs to be changed. So that's my main point. So I'm looking forward to your reflections and to learn from mistakes. Yes, that's always good. That's what I claim as well. I'm in charge of a large DAD program helping 25 universities in Southeast Asia to look at sustainability. And just recently I was there for a conference, and what I observe, I think we all know, is that the sustainability issues are discussed in a very different way here in Europe as compared to Asia. And so we still have a long way to go. So that's for the moment good enough. Later on, I will share.
Okay, thank you for this teasing. And we have Christelle Garrouste from
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm Christelle Garrouste, as my colleague was saying before. So I'm an assistant professor in economics here at the IE International School. But before I arrived to UPEC, I actually worked for international organizations. I was part of the Education for All framework of UNESCO when actually the MDGs were launched. So the earliest stage of the SDGs that we are going to talk about today. So I was working specifically on the educational part, and we were already working on the fact that, okay, we needed to make sure that the knowledge, the sensibilization to environmental issues were going to be part of the academic curriculum around the world. At that time, it wasn't heard so much. Then we moved in 2015 to the SDGs. At that time, I moved myself to the European Commission, and the European Commission started suddenly realizing that there was maybe a space for Europe to take in terms of competitivity with regard to the innovations, the eco-innovations. They realized that we were suffering a lot of competition at the research level and engineering level from not only from the US anymore, but also from Asia. So we needed to create a kind of European identification scheme. And so they asked me to continue my work on the environmental transition. And I was in charge of investigating the green jobs. So the evolution of the labor market in terms of green jobs. And so to do that, I investigated, I created an econometric model of forecasting in order to check what would be the capacity of European universities to produce the green skills that were going to be needed in the coming years by the different industries across Europe. So that is a project that actually enabled me to then get involved on a LabEx in France. So I came back to France and was invited to work on a national laboratory of excellence that was dedicated to the climate change. And I was in charge of the working package on this transition to green jobs. And so I developed further skills that were then presented to the French government, and they endorsed those different measurements. And then it just happened at the time where we started having more and more pressure about how we could concretize, put in practice, in real practice, all the talks that we had had about education for sustainable development. So I managed to get a position as an assistant professor at the University of UPEC, and I was able there I got the free space to create and open a new master program that I'm going to present to you today about sustainability and green business. And this was for me an amazing opportunity to actually put in practice all the things I had witnessed through my research, all the needs that I had witnessed from my research. I could suddenly now try to contribute to this production of green skills. So we opened first a master degree program on sustainability and green business. And now this year, we have even opened a bachelor program on green business that is directly correlated to the master degree program in order to make sure that we embrace a larger number of students and that we start sensitizing them even earlier, because we noticed that it was too late to start with that at the master degree level. And what I will present to you today is also the fact that at the IE International School, we have a lot of lecturers and professors who are themselves personally engaged in environmental issues, and they naturally use all the sustainability framework as part of their teaching. They introduce it, whatever the discipline they're teaching. And this is something that they have been doing for several years. And we managed, as a preparation for this conference, to put together, to collect information about everything that was done that we didn't even know that was taking place within classrooms from our colleagues. And we realized that there is actually a lot ongoing, and that it's about time now that we frame it and that we value it better. What I found is that in France, we are suggesting at the institutional level to engage in education for sustainable development, but we haven't produced any competency framework that is clear enough to actually translate those competencies into accreditations. So it means that it's just a suggestion, okay, well, we recommend you to do it, but then nobody really cares about what real accreditatable competencies could be coming out from those education practices. And this is creating a gap between the real needs of the labor market and what we are still offering. So I'm going to try to present that to you with a presentation to show you what we are trying to do, the steps we are taking, and what remains to be done. But yeah, so I'm really excited about hearing how you do, because I guess that we're going to learn a lot from you. So thank you all.
So thank you. So, and now maybe we can start presentations, and then we will have this opportunity to discuss and to share mistakes, opportunities, and maybe successes. So I propose to let the floor to Dr. Clévaz for presenting us and sharing with us a vision from Switzerland. You need to unmute your mic.
Okay, now you should hear me better, right? We have 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, 30, 40. So it's, yeah.
No, it shouldn't be too long. All right, so I've named my presentation Pivoting Higher Education to Teach Sustainability. There will be a few opening remarks, a bit conceptual, and as promised to UPEC, a couple very concrete examples that will come at the end of the presentation. I'll try not to take too much time in the theoretical remark, but I think they can be important also to see if we have if we frame the question the same way in the various institutions, and then then we can go into the concrete examples. So when I was listening to Christelle Garrouste and her story, I was thinking of this slide. As you may have guessed in my title, Pivoting Higher Education, part of the things I argue is that a change is needed to teach sustainability. And I want to start with a why. Why is a change needed? Well, basically because when you say teaching sustainability, you can say different things. And I've just taken two different things on my slide. First, you can teach sustainability as a concept, just defining what is sustainable, what is not, what could that mean? Is it even possible to be sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. And I think this is really, the debate will be the description and who has the clearer ideas, the less contradictory ideas, the best data to back his ideas. And I think if teaching sustainability is about that, and it's very important, don't get me wrong, we are equipped already. I think the system that we have is fantastic at helping clarifying those ideas and helping also get the right definitions, even though they can be, we all know, epic academic fights, but it's okay. I mean, that's fine. That's we know how to do. At Business School Lausanne, we are not interested only in teaching those concepts and being part of those discussions, but we want to also make our students doers. We consider that business education students are doers, people who make a difference, people who have an impact. And there you have to shift from you have to move from teaching sustainability to teaching sustainable business, meaning teaching models that are barely emerging. Dr. Burki mentioned, for instance, in supply chain, a lot of work has still to be done to not just define what is a sustainable supply chain, but how can you get a company creating a sustainable supply chain? There are no really stable model or classical theory on that. It's still very much in the making. And so when it comes to teach sustainable business, higher education is placed in kind of a new situation because you need to teach something that only partly exists, meaning the co-creation with the students is key. and the co-creation today, but also the potential creation that they will do later. So you need not just to embed the students with knowledge and wisdom of today, but also with the capacity to develop not just wisdom and action and in the future. So if you want, there's a longer way probably from the classroom to or the institution to the goal of what you are teaching. And it was particularly clear to us because we have contacts with a few engineering schools in the area and probably one of the best in Europe, which is EPFL. And it's just really, really, really frustrating to hear all those engineers that have incredible ideas to change the future, but just cannot bring those ideas into reality. So we consider that that's really the role of business students to help bridge the gap, except not many people have done that before. So you are placed in kind of a situation where you have to consider how you want to teach that. And that I will argue means a change in higher education. In order also to clarify my presentation, I've tried to just build a little bit of a matrix here about what has changed mean in education. And I've drafted this matrix based on what is the world doing and what is the education doing. I realize that the change should be a change in education. So you can be in a situation where the world is not changing too much or has reached a kind of stability and a logic. We can think of what the French call les 30 Glorieuses and this wonderful, continuous progress between 1945 and 1975. And in that time, the world was not changing much. It was actually following a certain pattern and a logic. And in that time also, education was not feeling a need for change. That has been theorized by Ken Robinson into the notion of education of the industrial age. So that's one paradigm. The world is quite stable, no big challenge, and education can just go on as it is. Even though in that world that is not changing, you still have those pioneers in education. I quote Maya Montessori, among others, but of course you always have had people who think education should be changed, not necessarily because of the world changing, but just to serve better the personal development of the people or a philosophical idea or any kind of project you can have on education itself. So I think those two first lines are not really relevant today because we are no more in a world that is so stable, and we have to look at the two bottom lines where the world actually is changing, change is accelerating, is fast, whatever you need. And I think here you have two possibilities. Either the education starts to change or it does not. So education which doesn't change, I think it's a quite classical reaction of the education system to change. Education system is quite reluctant to change for one reason, is because educators understand the world. So since they understand and they figure this out, they say, why should we change what we teach? We are in a good position. We are the knowers. We are the ones who create the knowledge. We are the ones who make sense of all this. So why should we change the way we do? So I think we have to remember this third line is very important when you touch this question of sustainability, because Professor Maya mentioned the role of governance, and I think that's probably where governance will have a big role to avoid this classical reaction of the system, to make sure that the system understands that what has to be done is change at the same time education as the world change. We cannot stop the change in the world, but definitely we have a say on the change in education. So that's in that fourth line that I'll be speaking, considering that, okay, because something has changed, because we have to teach something that does not really exist, we are in a new situation. So we have to embrace the situation and do what I call a pivot. Now, the word pivot is not a fancy word, and I didn't choose it for just because it's a word that is very used in entrepreneurship. I think the word pivot is really defining the change that's needed for education. So just a quick reminder, the notion of pivot was introduced by Eric Ries, one of the most influential authors in entrepreneurship in the 2000s. I think he He considers himself as the founder of entrepreneurship as a discipline. This can be debated, of course, but he comes with this definition of the pivot. The pivot is a change in strategy without a change in vision. And so I think this is very key to understand where higher education lies when it comes to teacher sustainability, because the vision remains. And basically the vision of higher education is that the mission of the university education is for the greater good. And we all agree on that. And that's where it's important, this notion of pivot, because we don't want to change that. When we talk about changing education, we don't talk about changing this noble vision. I say that because many people who react negatively to change in education do so because they think they have to defend education against bad project or, you know, evil finalities. It's not the case. You can be willing to, the pivot, the notion of pivot explains you're willing to change inside a vision that remains. And that, I think, is one of the first things to put forward, because then the change that have to be done are going to be, like all changes, painful, and like all changes, challenging for the people to go through it, and will request quite a lot of creativity and also consistency and also resilience in order to go through. So vision stays the same, but the strategy change. And what is exactly the change in the strategy is that instead of being only interested in teaching the what, which is what you do when you discuss concepts. Basically, concepts tells you what a thing is, right? A concept is all about definition, giving attributes, giving meaning, and all those sort of things. This is all in the what. The change in strategy is you continue to teach the what, but you add consideration about the how. You describe the need for a change in the carbon, production, but you explain how you can get to that, and you debate on how is it feasible or not. So this is very important, and this is what will bridge the gap between the incredible findings of the engineers and creativity of those schools where you really have genius at work, I cannot say it elsewhere, and the capacity to change the reality. So that's the change in strategy. Maybe I forgot to mention my talk is mostly oriented on business schools because, for instance, Camille was talking about geography. This is another discipline, and I'm sure she has other challenges. So I don't know if the how is so important in her challenges. But when it comes to business, really, it is key to look at this how. So now we have basically the question. We have to change the strategy of higher education. Pivoted. So how do you do that? I turn to John P. Cotter, who is the most influential author with the notion of change. And I've just reproduced his 8-step model, Leading Change, 1996, because even though you have maybe not have read Cotter at the beginning, I'm sure you all have been through change processes that were created by this approach to Cotter with 8 different steps and a very structured approach. Now, Cotter himself comes back to his model in 2021 and says, if we continue to improve our capacity to adapt and change only incrementally means step by step. If you do that only step by step, we are taking a huge and unnecessary risk because simply this will take so long to happen that the system will have collapsed, or the consequences we want to avoid will have happened anyway. So now he's going to another approach, which is more leadership from more people to drive needed change. This, I think, has also a direct consequence to governance, right? Because all of a sudden, it's not just the top-down approach. I think the 1996 Leading Change is something where you can see this top-down approach that would have worked before, that doesn't work anymore. I mean, it still works, but it works too slowly compared to the pace of change. And you have to do it differently. And I add a little clin d'oeil, like you say in French, about a book called Edupreneurial Pivot by Dr. Bouki and I, which specifically focuses on the role of the entrepreneurial mindset in this process of change. And just to sum up the argument of the book, basically, maybe the entrepreneurial mindset is a bit of a more operational concept than leadership to make it change. But that's another topic I don't want to develop here. What I want to develop is this idea that what you have to change is give power to the people and is really move into a direction where you will not be comfortable. You will feel you lose control. You will feel it's going to be messy. You will have to forget a bit about the lecture where everybody's patiently listening and admiring and go into something that is far less elegant and much more hands-on and a bit dirty and messy in order to get to some results. So that's the idea. So what does it mean at BSL concretely? And then I will come to the concrete example, is that when I was talking about 2006, the first things we did was introduce courses on sustainability. We started developing the what, and I've heard many of the people in Norway or elsewhere saying, yes, we were teaching ESG, we are teaching, ESG maybe that came later, but as UN sustainability goal, SDGs, we were talking about sustainability concepts, etc. And at that time, we were teaching the recipe as a how. So we had a kind of a recipe with a model of our own called the gap frame. And we thought we could make simulation that is not working on real life, but working on imagination to make things changing. This didn't work. I can tell you, simulation, it's a lot of work to prepare, doesn't work in the end. So that's not the way we go. So what did we change? Well, we still teach the what. We have kept sustainability course. And of course, I think like all of us have done, we've expanded this notion of sustainability to other courses, like geography or other classes. So that's the first move, is to say, no, sustainability should not be taught in a silo. It should be taught in a interdisciplinary approach and sort of migrate to all the other sides of the picture. But this is not the only thing we did. What we did really is start to systematically introduce experiential learning into the way we teach. And I will give you now a few examples of what it is. That is, you have to frustrate some of the professors who will have to change the way they do, and you will have to cancel a few classes or reorganize the time. So, for instance, and that's what I call the library paradigm. Let me just give you what I mean by the library paradigm. It's very difficult to change things in an educational organization. Very, 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 very difficult. But if you look at what it is, you always find a way to go. And the good example for that is the library. Who needs a library nowadays? Everything is electronic. And you have all the books of the world through the internet, and it's probably cheaper to pay for database access than to pay review by review. So when you walk into a school and you look at the library, you immediately understand if the school is capable, is agile, is capable of moving, is capable of doing something or not. Because the school who are agile, the library has become something else. It's still called a library, but all of a sudden it's a media studio, it's a co-working place. You can see also maybe not just books, but maybe, how do you call that? Make a space thing happening, or the wall are painted in green so they can shoot movies, etc. So it's a good indicator. But what is true for the library is true for many, many things in the things we do. There's always a place where you can put, innovation. So what I did at BSL, and that's where it's also very important, again, I come back to this idea of governance. I've changed those gap frame weeks. So when I arrived at BSL, it was so that the professors had 10 weeks of teaching, but were asked to our basis courses of 40 hours. So they had very neatly 4 hours per week, adding to 40 hours. And then that was the end of the term. But they were asked to give up the last 4 hours and still and transform that into kind of a collective teaching with the other professor, which was very difficult to achieve because the professor were not there on the same day of the week, so they were not really meeting. So there was not really a space created to have something different each term. So when I arrived, I did something that is mathematically impossible. I put the 40 hours into 9 weeks, which means that now the professor teach 4 and 21 minutes per week to get to their 40 hours, but it's the same amount of hours. But of course, it doesn't look very good on a timetable, those 21 minutes. But anyway, that made to create a full week of free activity. And that's, you know, and again, that's where it takes governance. You have to take risk as head of schools. You cannot just say it's going to happen. You have to create the opportunity. But what I did then is we gave the responsibility of this week 10 of the week to the students to say, you're going to create, you know, the teaching. And that ended up to my first example of how we teach sustainability at BSL. That's the last, no, that's the before last, penultimum business innovation this summer, July 2022. What we did then was, you can see on the picture on the bottom right, you see a whole group of people more or less listening to me, but also quite a messy place. Those are our bachelor and master students, all mixed together. No more first year, second year, master, all mixed together. And they had a mission, which was to consult with Les Paniers de la Mule. And Les Paniers de la Mule is a cooperative farm. And Les Paniers de la Mule is a wonderful project made by EPFL engineers. So if you look at the farm from an engineer point of view, it's a perfect tool. It really creates incredibly bio and good food for the community, and it does work, except they are not selling enough. Their business model doesn't work. So they came to us, and we had our students really trying, and what you can see on the right target audience, this is one of the slides they use, but they use many, many slides. And we had one of the, one of our students consulting basically Les Paniers de la Mule in order to help them rethink their business model to make it more commercial. Because the big thing that they had forgotten is that even if you sell the best vegetable in Lausanne, 20 other people sell also vegetable that are less good, but they have better marketing. So if you don't go into the marketing fight for that, you will not sell your vegetable. Plus, it's a bit more complex because it's a cooperative, and normally you have to be a cooperator to be access to the food. They also get, so I mean, it was touchy, it was a very complex problem. So what happened is that all the groups of our students very creatively look at the problem, made proposal, et cetera, and then we end up with quite a decent consulting report to Les Paniers de la Mule with concrete things they could do and also things that they should watch. They were like super thankful for what we have done. But I also learned something about my students. And that's what, you know, what is great also there is that you also learn how to teach. This work only 50%, because the students were great and fantastic at opening new ideas, new perspectives, but they were very poor at getting it together into a concrete proposal. So that's also for us a great way to understand what they still need to learn. You don't get that if you teach classically, because if you teach classically, all you will know is those who pass the exam, but the exam is based on things that are already been seen in the class. So if you think you close the loop with an exam, think twice, because you don't. You just close something that is self-referential, if you want. if you want to know what kind of impact your teaching is going to have to the students, you have to set them free and see what they can do on their own. So that's very risky, because that means some of the students were disappointed, some were critical about what we did. We had debates, but we learned we are not there yet. And we learned that only having this goal, that students are capable of getting a project to the end without the control of the professor, this is one of the key, especially at bachelor level. So that's one of the way we did. And there's this combination of intervention of the school. I had to create the space for the classes. I had to hear the complaint of the faculty saying, you know, teaching 4 hours and 21 minutes, this is unheard of, I don't know how I'm going to do. I had to hear that on the one hand and stay strong with that to create the space for the students to be free. So it's always a mix between, you know, the individual initiative. You have to set people free, but you also have to consider how you create the thing. So what you see also on the slides is real life project. We try to have as many as possible of this real life project in the school. With the limits, we do not take real life projects of companies which can pay for professional consulting. This is an ethical limit. If you want, we are not there to create unfair competition to professional consultants. But there are many associations, NGOs, initiatives, startups who have no money to work with a consultant anyway, and are happy to have business people, and our students are business people, helping them think about their business model. So we want to bring those real life projects. However, it is challenging to always bring those projects into the school. So that brought us to a second step of the project. We have now what I call sustainability in residence. You know, you sometimes have artists in residence. I listen to France Music, and you have all those musicians who come in residence in Maison de la Radio in Paris. So I thought we are going to have sustainability in residence. There is one association called My Blue Planet. Basically, what they care about is climate. And it's quite a big association in Switzerland, about, I don't know, a couple, well, maybe 20, 30,000 members, but they're only in the German part of Switzerland, and they wanted to expand in the French part. So it happens that the young woman on the left, Kulan, is an alumna of BSL. She graduated from the bachelor. And the man on the right, I'll tell you about him, is Daniel Lucia, is the founder of the association. He's also a BSL alumnus of the MBA. And they started to work together. She started to volunteer for My Blue Planet. But anyway, she got hired by My Blue Planet, except they said, we cannot find you an office. It's going to be too expensive. So they came to me and said, would you have an office for us? I said, yes, but I need to have something in exchange. And basically what they bring to us now are those real life projects, because they are an association, they are full of those projects which needs, you know, help and support, which become the fuel of, you know, our teaching. And this is a way to facilitate a very difficult process, which is to bring the real world into the school. So what we did, we used this kind of relay with My Blue Planets. What you can see on the picture on the right is the picture of Kulan's office at BSL. And the picture in the middle is the president of the association, who was also presenting during what we call the warm-up of the office a couple of weeks ago here at BSL. So the point I want to make here is that you have to find a way to not start new procedure and maybe it takes too long to find the resources and the authorization. You have to see what you have, and in what you have, how you can transform that in order to welcome those kind of initiatives in a dynamic thing. You know, you have to be, and that's basically what, that's one of the 10 attributes we have in our model of entrepreneurial mindset, the capacity to do with the resources at hand. this is absolutely key. And it's also a very good definition of sustainability, by the way. You have to have that really, really close to your everyday practice to make sure that people that you find a way. I talk about the library paradigm. This is my library paradigm. How can I find association real-life project easily without having to re-engineer the whole school? Well, that's one of the way I found, and it has started to work. So that's one way. First is real-life project. Difficult to go to sort of scale that. One thing you can do is take those association in residence and start working with them, and then you will fill your school with projects, and then the project can become subject in the classroom, and then you have all your school all of a sudden starting to work on real-life matters without disrupting the professional consulting industry, which is important because we were not there to create a problem, we're there to solve problems. So that's one of the things we do now. And you see, we have moved a long way from just adding a new topic in the curriculum to having a brand new experience. And now we have My Blue Planet and others, using BSL as a place where sustainability or sustainable business, I should say, happens. Last but not least, we also wanted to do something at the academic level with EPFL, this incredible engineering school with all those engineers that have such a good idea, such good ideas. And we first did kind of a classical symposium with them. And it was the same kind of frustration that the engineers and the scientists were bringing brilliant ideas, but the business people were not seeing anything that they could use. And when they were asking the scientists sort of fell short answering, this is how you can do things. But on the other hand, it's not necessarily for them to find those solutions. So we needed to bridge the gap. So we built this concept of academic citizen assembly. There's a website that you find under that name that will explain you the details. And the idea is that we ask the experts to get together in a citizen assembly. So it's like a citizen assembly if you want, but instead of having citizen talking only citizenship, you have scientists looking for a solution. And all of a sudden, the one who says, I don't know if the picture you see on this assembly, the topic was reduction of CO2. And those who have ideas, they have to negotiate their ideas with other people who have other, either ideas or constraints, and you start to have a dialogue. So if you want, the citizen assembly is there to put the scientists in the arena, and they stop to be pure observers of the reality, but they really try to be actor in the reality with other actors. And then they realize, well, sustainability is not just about being right, it's also about being democratic. And you have to find a democratic decision-making process. So this is why we call it 21st century democratic decision-making for the Swiss societal transition. This is quite promising. And what we want to do now, we have done, I think, three prototype editions. Now we are approaching either other universities, but also local communities like the commune in Switzerland are quite important, and try to set up this as a tool for making impact. I think the citizen assembly is a great way to generate the ideas and the vision with kind of a pre-agreement of the people, and then things are already on the move when you try to implement them. So that's among the things we do. And that would be my third and final example. That also has an invitation, if you're, of course, interested to continue discussion. That's definitely something we can organize together between institutions, one of those academic citizen assembly as a tool if we need to generate ideas or try to look for a common solution to a problem we may have seen. This can be also used inside an institution if you want to reflect on what you can do as an institution to be more responsible and to move towards either a lighter carbon footprints or any other measures you want to take to make the activities of the university itself more sustainable. So that's my presentation for today. We move from abstract concept into concrete ideas. They might seem to be a kind of a difference of scale. That's true. Maybe at university level, we are too much used to think wide and big. Are we capable of starting at our front door? That's really what we try to do at BSL, is to say it's not enough to be understanding universal concepts if you're not capable of having concrete immediate impact in your immediate surroundings. So that's basically the journey we've had so far, and that we're happy to continue today with this seminar at UPEC. Thank you for your attentions. I don't know if there's time for questions. If so, I'll be happy to answer. I'll stop sharing because it's not very nice not to see each other.
Thank you for this presentation. So we'll keep the questions for the end. So if you have questions, you can write them in the Q&A or the chat. Just to mention that it is good because we have things that are similar also at UPEC, but we'll discuss and present it later. So it's quite interesting. So. And we need to transition ourselves in order to be able to deal with this transition. So it's also something very interesting. So I will let our colleagues from Norway now so to give their presentations, and then we'll continue and we'll put everything together. I don't know, Gunnar, if you had
Yes.
Intro.
Is it okay? We can take the presentation now if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Like this, you can see my presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. It's titled Co-Creating a Learning Community on Sustainability. And I think some of the elements that David introduced, we will try to develop a bit more. It's some of the same kind of initiatives. I have also put up a lot of co-authors here. It's a consequence of the method we have used to try to invite different persons to contribute. So the theme is co-creating. I'll try to explain it more thoroughly. Sustainability, this is not new for you, but I put it up anyway. This is not a new concept. It's quite old, but it's more important than ever. I think it's also necessary to recognize that it's also a long-term concept. We talk not about quick fixes, but we talk about how we're going to develop in the long term. And that puts some stress on how we're going to teach it. It's also not only a soft concept. It's quite radical. I think that is also why it's still relevant, because it's not only about the green or the environment. It's also about social part, for example, human rights and things like that. And it's also about the economical part. So this makes it complex. We also have talked about how we are going to go forward, as David talked about. And I think this graphs from the International Energy Agency give some directions for the economics forward. And I like the graph on the left side there, and they talk about and the need for decoupling, that we have to create value. We have to create more value to remove poverty, to increase all the good things. But we have also to do this with less energy and even to decrease the amount of CO2 even more. So we have to do several things at the same time. My favorite woman for the time is Ursula von der Leyen, and she talks about this European Green Deal, and I like very much the way she talks about it, because this is not a purely environmental or economical dimension. It's also that she refers to it as a just transition. So we have also this social element here. And Christelle, you talked earlier about the SDGs, and I think the SDGs also reflect these complexities in a good way. As you know, we have like these 17 like overall goals and a lot of smaller goals. And I think they state for us or make it clear that this is very complex. It's about poverty, it's about literacy, it's about the climate, it's about environment, it's about economics. So it's a lot of things here. It's systemic, things is of course related, and it's full of what we could call wicked problems. There are no obvious ways of how to solve these, not single-handed and especially not together. So this is full of wicked problems. For us, it also suggests that we should look for new ways of teaching it. If what we are teaching is changing, also we should think about how we are teaching it. And our hypothesis is that we have to go outside the traditional classroom or outside the textbook or outside the university to be able to address these wicked problems in a good way. And our approach is that it's a kind of analogy to this African phrase that it takes a village to raise a child. We think it takes a lot of people to teach sustainability. So that is our approach. The way we have tried to explore it is to make it not too complex. We have looked at 1 year only. This is the year 2022, on how we are teaching sustainability and how we are trying to relate it to a community, not only the university teacher or the textbook, but going beyond, as I talked about. So we try to include externally funded projects, students, NGOs like Camille, regional industry, other countries, and so forth. So we have looked at one program over 1 year and tried to reflect a bit on that later. The way we have done it is that we have tried to challenge different stakeholders to try to write a very short memo describing how they engaged in teaching sustainability and what they think they have contributed to what we now call the learning community. I think now I can give the word to my colleague here, so he will present some of the initiative and try to explain it. So please, Trude.
Yes, thank you. This logo in the middle is made by one of our students, Innovation and Project Leadership at the Østfold University College, in Norwegian, of course. Our program is an interdisciplinary program, it's a leadership program. And we have connected it to the environment and the SDGs. What you see here on the pictures are students in action. Up on the left side, we see what we call the lunch we have in the a lunch where the students are talking about their interests. And that can be, what to eat in the future, or connected directly to the subjects they have during this. That we do this once a month if we get it to be done right. Up on the right, you see a girl on a bridge that she has built herself. It's part of how to learn project leadership and teams, and also coupling environmental issues into this by reusing materials also. So you have to build a bridge, coming back to that. And as you see, part of our teaching is about looking at what do we have as classrooms, what do we have as laboratories. And we see that we have the classroom outside. Of course, we teach in the classroom, but we also go outside. We work in the factories, in the organizations, the companies. And as we work, we also send the students out. I think David said you have to give trust to the students, and they are really good when you loosen up and let them do the work. So we do project-based teaching a lot. And you want to fill in more, Gunnar?
No, I think it's okay.
Yeah, next. We also try to get external funding for projects and international projects. So we was lucky with what we call the Green Biz project. That's aiming for reducing carbon-based fuel and reducing CO2. Part of this was also 2 PhD students. You met Lars earlier, working with life cycle assessment. And what we see is that, of course, reducing CO2 is also about getting the right materials to work with, changing materials. The other PhD student working with business models is more related directly to your economic educations. Business model innovation, and see how can we be greener or more cyclic, or what we want to call it. Part of this is also the internationalization, of course, and we try to make a project that we also send students down. This was with Sweden and Denmark, and we have then sent students down to Denmark working with Danish companies together with Swedish students. We also sent more students down to Sweden. So this exchange of students and teachers during the project is really important for us. I'm just looking at Gunnar if you want to add more. As I said, we work closely related to the businesses. The girl on the left is Anna, and she's facilitating a group of employees in a large engineering company here. So we had 250 participants from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark in this company, and our students was facilitating 3 process actions in 1.5 hours each. So it's kind of heavy for the students, but also you learn really a lot by this. So in this case, this was part of a subject called leadership development. And we're going to learn better than being out in the company, trying out what you have learned theoretically, the methods you learn, and then try to use it in real life. That's what they're doing here.
Can I add something?
Yes, of course.
And the students, they are very into sustainability. So they also brought with them sustainability into what was else more about the innovation culture. Then using students also contributed to be about sustainability.
Yes, I should, of course, I said that also in the start here, that we try to have sustainability as a basis in all the subjects, and I think we're doing quite well so far. Another example, this is 4 students doing their bachelor thesis project. They made Norway's first recycled boat in this particular rotation molded plastic. I don't know exactly the name of the plastic. But during the project, they worked with the company that's making the boats. They are here in Fredrikstad. But they also worked with chemical companies, with companies that help them to analyzing, to compound all this. Also with a Swiss company, I think. I don't remember the name, chemical company. But again, they work, or bachelor thesis go from January to June, and they worked with real life problems. They found out the theoretical basis, they found the methods, and they really made this new boat, recycled boat. And they put it out down on the river on the outside here of the school and drove away with an electric motor, of course, in the end. And it's part of making an environmentally sound project as a bachelor thesis.
Yes. I can also add one thing more. If you look at the picture up left, you will see that one of you, maybe you don't recognize her, but one of them is the PhD research fellow and also part of the Greenpeace project. So both the research project, the companies and the students, they are connected all the time, not only bilateral, but we include like 3 or even 4 or 5 different actors in the same projects as much as possible, really.
So we try to get the students to live with the companies and work with the companies and just not in the companies and looking at the companies. That's important. This was a really good project, really nice to see.
As I can take it, this is more traditional on-campus teaching. What's new for us is that we work with cross-disciplinary with other programs at the engineering department. And this is the first time they had a startup week with focus on sustainability. So I don't remember what the model was trying to illustrate, but the point here is that they do rapid prototyping, they do design thinking, and try to develop both working in cross-disciplinary teams, but also have this sustainability on the agenda. So we learned a lot from that, and we will try to continue it and also try to make this connection stronger and more often with the whole faculty.
It's also a real good start in the year. This was the second day at campus for the students, so that they loved it, of course. This was connecting to the environment really good, really well. This was out in the national park. It's mostly below water. It's in national park, and it's about if you want to understand ecological problems, you have to take on it, you have to feel it and touch it and see it and be there in a way. That we try to do. So we connected with international experts, but also with those that manage the park out in Ytre Vale National Park.
And it's interesting because it's about biomimicry, how to mimic the nature for finding sustainable solutions. And that also turns it around. It's not about sustainability as environment only, but it's also about finding the good new ideas for innovations, so that you can say that it's money in sustainability. It's a way of making money in the future. So, and they developed different models based on specific materials, or it could also be about ecosystems, how different plants and organisms form a system of material flow and things like that.
And again, our lab is out in the wild, where it's really happening. I think in the next picture, Camille, you will recognize some of the people, some of the students. This is out on the Lighthouse Week. And there we try to get students to meet politicians and also those that are interested in environmental issues, together with the bureaucrats and the industrial people, teachers, students all around. Also, we had earlier young students out there, young pupils, I will say. I'm trying to again get the look and feel of what are the problems really and how can we work together to solve them. So the environmental aspect is really, I think, tight connected here.
Yeah. And what you see is researchers, students, NGOs, idealists, environmentalists, policy makers. So it's a real blend of people working together. So good way of connecting what otherwise very often is like isolated islands of initiatives. We try to connect together and see how can we work stronger together than individually.
Yes, I'm not sure if you are on the picture, Camille, but maybe.
I am. I think I'm next to Gunnar, actually. I'm small.
Yes, that's nice. But then you have been there and seen that. Yes, that's nice.
Yeah.
As I said, we have experts also there. Yes.
Yes. This is from what we call a 9R festival. It's about reduce, reuse, recycle things. And instead of making it into an abstract assignment, this is also connecting sustainability into value creation. So what they have here is like an assignment from a company. The company had very concrete starting point. They had 500 copies of an inventory thing, a furniture, and the students were challenged how to redesign, reuse, recycle, so that we could create more money for the company from this starting point. So it was very real, and it was quite interesting, because the winning concept from this festival was the day after sold to a company in Oslo. So they really reused it. And this was where an old furniture part that was, we added some technology for making it possible to share, and also, as you see, use it in another way. So this was very interesting. And we all the time try to connect that this is not sustainability, is also about competitiveness. So being sustainable is also about being competitive and try to find the right partners.
And the company owner was there for several hours discussing with the students during this. And I think having a really good time also.
Yes. Yeah. This is a student enterprise. They call themselves useless. I think this is quite good, as you say. It's about using less, of course, but this is, we mentioned entrepreneurship earlier. In Norway, we have this student enterprise where they have some reduced regulations for starting a company that they do. And this company is more and more into also being about sustainability. And that is not only a political issue from us, but it's also finding like business opportunities. As I said earlier, for us, it's important that we have this economical part to making it viable. So this is, we have written a bit more about it in the papers that you can read, but I think this is also interesting, and it's changing. From 10 years ago, it was maybe one of the student enterprises. Now it's almost everyone.
As you can see here, we are in Denmark. Again, these are some of our bachelor students together with master students from Chalmers University in Sweden, in a Danish company, a sawmill, and discussing with the owner, how do we get this sawmill more green, more ecological, and not just as a facade, but really changing how they're working. We use some of this B-star material, as we see it, innovation project processes. So they came down there, out and talk with this man, and looking at the sawmill, discussing then how is it today, and then trying to discuss how do we make it better. And again, it's about taking the theory and the methods out in the field, getting the lab out in the field, working there, and then presenting to the owner later on. Here are our suggestions for how you can be greener, how you can work differently, how you can change your processes. And some of these processes are you can change momentarily, and some are, require you have to use money to do this, and the investment is not always easy, but we're trying to fix it. And again, it's internationalization, and we use then our international project to pay for sending students down there. So this is a cooperation with the research projects and student teaching. It's important, I think. And this is a project we are really fond of and proud of. This happened this November. It's happened November all year. This is our first year students in the bachelor program. They have been there for less than 3 months, and then they build a bridge. That is, we have 8 teams, and they all build their own bridge. It's a part of making them understand that you can do very much if you really put your mind into it. This is in the subject project leadership. How much project leadership there is, I'm not quite sure during the project, but later on we reflect really hard on it, and they see all the problems it is. So they are, again, as David also said, we make mistakes and the students make mistakes, but we can learn from that and make better. As you can see, the materials looks maybe used, some of it, and it is. This is part of the, as a third year student, project lead for the whole project, and they said that you have to use used materials, and you have to have a plan for what you do with the materials when your bridge is finished. So they get the rules on Monday, this bridge is put up on Thursday, and they have to do everything themselves again, and they fix it. That's also really good. And they can see that theory can be put into practice really fast, and maybe not with full success all the time, but they learn. This is about...
Yeah, I can take it. Yeah. This is about one of the researchers in the Greenpeace project, and she is supervising our bachelor students, first-year bachelor students, on doing very preliminary business models, how they can analyze a company and then try to add the new business models, putting it more green or more sustainable. And again, it's about trying to expand the classroom, or expanding beyond the teacher, that we put in new people all the time. That's the same way as we met Camille, that we hope to make into kind of the same way, that we try to catch people that we find interesting and put them into meeting the students, and we do that by projects and by other means. In this table, we have tried to summarize some of these initiatives and what they contribute with. For us, it's very important with the contributions that, for example, that the study program that has a very strategic goal of being more and more sustainable, going that way. And for us, it's about connecting global trends with, for example, creating value in the region. And we do that by project-based learning and so forth. You can see that the different activities, they constitute some actors that will be part of what we call the learning community. And if you look at the middle column here, you will see that it's a big variety of actors. We have the curricula, we have the research project, we have regional work life, we have PhDs, we have a lot of things that not necessarily ordinary is part of what you would call the learning resources for a class. But our experience is that inviting in is very often people say yes, people find it interesting, and then we try to connect new actors all the time. So it has been a very fun year, and we have not included all the activities really either, but these are the ones that we got the memos from. And we think this mix from the very simple doing something together with a company, or so simple as working cross-disciplinary with another study program, it's important, not in itself, but together with connecting to a big research project and connecting with companies in a different country or students from a different university. Together, in sum, it's the interesting part, that together they make up something that is much stronger and much more relevant when trying to address the complexities in sustainability. Some of the lessons or findings is that for us, this is clearly a socio-technical network, because some of the actors are so trivial as a curriculum. Some actors are real people, like Camille, like other people that we invite in. It's also about the nature itself is part of this, as in the biomimicry project. So it's a big network, and doing this for 10 years, we have been trying to be. We also think it's a bit uneasy sometimes, but we do it because we have experience before. Very often it comes up very good. We think it's very interesting that it represents the full range of sustainability. It's not only about the green thing. We got social elements, we got the economical elements all the time. It really makes it possible to expand teaching beyond the classroom textbooks and the local resources on both in knowledge and in practicalities. It builds employability for our students because they work with companies. And it also makes it very clear for our students that sustainability is also about competitiveness and value creation. And we think this is very, very important to get access to all the companies. And we have more and more companies as partners every year. So now we have to be like saying no to a lot of companies. And we think that's, we don't like that, but we have to do it. But we are always reminded that this is fresh produce. We can have a project, but the project ends. So we have to have new project. We have to have new partners all the time. So we can't go to sleep early. We have to work hard. And we try to also to develop the work with you. Because both UPEC, we have worked with a lot, but we also want to work with the other partners and also NGOs and people like Camille. So I think that was that. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
So thank you. It's very interesting and to see what you are doing with students and with outdoor teaching of sustainability. So I'm sure we will discuss a lot about this. So now we can start with Professor Meyer and the insight from Germany.
Yes, so thank you very much. It was very interesting to listen to you, and indeed, coming from a University of Applied Science, I share many of your observations, and it's a good reminder because maybe sometimes we are carried away by just going for ordinary lectures and seminars and not really following your approach towards experiential learning or case studies or really going outdoor and the like. But I fully share your observations, and it's really food for thought. So thank you very much. I have in my presentation, I give it a different perspective, but maybe that's good for our conversation. Teaching sustainability, I actually wanted to rename my presentation, emphasizing that that universities need to be credible in teaching sustainability by being sustainable themselves in their operations. So to some extent, this is my main point. I think the first slide after your presentations, it's actually self-understood. So we are called upon to play a role in talking about sustainability, in addressing the importance of it. And in one of the questions asked in the chat, I was answering actually that self-critically, I have to look back and have to say that maybe we have failed to some extent. I mean, maybe I'm the oldest in this group, and when I look at what were the issues in economics, in business administration teaching in the 90s or so, 80s, 90s. Certainly we looked at our common future in such books, but when you look at the textbooks, there was little space for sustainability issues. There was little consideration for climate change issues and the like. So universities are called upon to play an important role in addressing the issue of sustainability. And when we think about what we have to do, and I think that's once in a while helpful for us. When we do our module descriptions, we are always reminded what is actually our aim. Well, we want to impart knowledge, and I think that is still important. I mean, before we get into practical work, sometimes we have to sort of build the basis for people really understand what they do, but then the development of skills and the raising of awareness, and finally, sometimes that's actually making our life as well a little bit inconvenient, but we have to empower the students. At the moment, right today, there was a news that in Munich, some students, they actually boycott lectures. They have declared one of the lecture halls at the LMU in Munich as their area where they will demonstrate towards asking for a more forceful climate policy of the German government. So we empower students, and sometimes that might be difficult then for us to deal with it. But it should be clearly one of the objectives of universities. We should make sure that our students can act as responsible citizens and can take their own decisions. Now, what kind of teaching do we do actually in Germany? I was as a start, I was looking at our website to show what kind of programs do we offer actually in Germany on sustainability. And by now, when you just use the word sustainability in German, Nachhaltigkeit, and you search for programs which have that term in their name, you end up with having more than 200 bachelor and master programs. And that's something that is really new. I mean, the website didn't give me the opportunity to say let's do the same search for 2010 or 2005, but now we have quite a number of universities offering bachelor and master programs. In addition, for example, at my university, we have many study programs where you can choose sustainability as a minor, so to speak, major or minor, I call it here specialization, or modules. I think there is no university anymore which would not allow students in different disciplines to choose sustainability issues to study them. I personally prefer very much, I'm not against number one and number two, so I'm not against bachelor and master programs, I'm not against specializations, but to some extent I like the mainstreaming of sustainability. So whenever you have any other class, we should discuss sustainability issues as well. So actually, see, I teach business ethics, and I like teaching business ethics, but the ideal way of reflecting on ethics is to have it included, mainstreamed in all modules. And the same applies to sustainability. So when you talk about, I don't know, economics, it should be mainstreamed. In economics, there should be a reflection on sustainability. And the same applies for supply chain. Like the example given by our colleague from Switzerland with the PhD thesis on supply chain and sustainability. So the mainstreaming is taking place. I think it's slow, but it's taking place. I found lots of summer universities offering programs on sustainability, and I think that's a very smart way. I like that. The summer universities, they give an opportunity as well to have a global reach, because summer universities are actually a nice way of coming together. Actually, together with Philip, I wanted to discuss that issue because in Southeast Asia, where I recently was, there is a strong interest to do something together on that issue. So summer universities is an approach, and many universities nowadays offer certificate programs. So for people who are already done with their studies but want to come back, and it's a bit like the Lausanne Business School when you have the practitioners coming back. it raises the sort of level of reflection. And when there is a mix of people, even better. So we have quite a number of programs focusing on sustainability. Now, my next point is, whenever we think about sustainability, it is actually quite clear that sustainability must be sort of conceptualized as an interdisciplinary work. So we have to include the perspective of biology, of geography, of economics, of psychology, and the like. And the SDG goals, they certainly reflect this multi-dimensionality of sustainability. So this is always important for me when I teach our students. When you want to be limited in your way of looking at the world, you won't capture, you won't really notice, you won't really understand the issue of sustainability and the solutions we need. So we need this multidimensional approach, and the institutions have to live up to that. So when I take, for example, our business programs, and when I search for the programs offered, they are typically in such a way. So some sustainability bachelor or master programs, they are in combination with natural science or geography. Some others are bringing together ethics and economics. Others bring in sustainability and law. And these are all relevant, all very important issues. The same applies when I look at, let's say, a program on architecture and sustainability. So you bring together people who or perspectives which marry two, or at least two or more disciplines. So what is important is, if we want to teach sustainability, we have to sort of go that way. I think my two, or actually all the speakers so far, they all mentioned this issue of interdisciplinarity. Now, what is the didactic challenge? While agreements exist that students need to learn about sustainability, openness in teaching sustainability and seeking solution is needed. I would say this is really important. And I myself, I felt quite irritated once in a while when people are too normative in teaching sustainability. There are different ways of looking at the world. Let's take in business or in economics the debate about green growth or degrowth. I think for us as people in higher education, it is not up to us to decide what is the right solution. It is up to us to confront students with the different solutions and let them sort of make up their mind and take a position. So when I sometimes delve into the sustainability world and feel confronted with very normative statements, I feel this is not how we should do it. So there are different ways, different perspectives. Some are really very pessimistic, some are less pessimistic, some are optimistic. And we have to leave space for all of these perspectives. So the methods include, I would say, in our case at least, I mean, we are really a University of Applied Science, but still we have lectures, seminars, the experiential learning, the practice-oriented learning, the community engagement. I like that very much. I think in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, where I was actually, they really pioneered that now. They came up 2 years ago with a new higher education law, making it mandatory that students spend 1 semester outside the academic world. And so then they do internships, community engagement. I think that's really important. Involvement in research is a powerful way. And many websites of universities emphasize that. When you study sustainability, you are part of the research teams doing something where we are called upon as a public institution to take to do research and the like. Research, that is my next point, research and knowledge transfer. So this is our ideal role. We are generators of knowledge. At the same time, we have to recognize that the business sector is not the lame duck, which is following us 10 years later, but rather the business sector is sometimes much faster. So there needs to be this fruitful collaboration, a permanent dialogue, this knowledge transfers, like I said, in both directions. And it helps the students to understand the complexity of research. I mean, the projects you showed, both from Switzerland and from Norway, they were actually making that point. But honestly, this is I think my more important slide. To you, I guess I speak to the convinced, but I'm not sure whether German universities are really so far in this respect. But being credible means we have to live up to the expectation of sustainability ourselves. So, for example, and this is a list of issues, but there is lots of change in this respect. Clear allocation of responsibility at the leadership level. So recently I listened to a presentation of the Freie Universität Berlin, and that's very convincing. They have a very clear allocation of responsibility at the top level, and they push for change. Establishment of a green or sustainability office where the activities are coordinated or at least monitored, where some information sharing is done. Establishment of committees. I mean, you know, there is always this joke that when you don't know what to do, then you create a committee. But the committees, they have an advantage over the Green Office because they are really involving people from various levels and disciplines and schools and faculties and the like. So a committee on sustainability. When I joined the University of Applied Science in 2001, I joined such a committee on sustainability, and people from agriculture and engineering and business came together, and I felt that's quite helpful. Participation in international networks. When you look at the German universities, there is now quite a number of national and international networks of universities committing themselves to work towards more sustainable operations and sharing information, sharing best practices. Participation in rankings. Last week, we controversially discussed what is the power, what is the relevance, what is the significance of the rankings on sustainability. So one of my colleagues, she was very critical of it. I think it's not. I think it's good. So I felt the criticism is far too strong. So we are working. I think we should go that way. I know in academia, rankings are actually, when you are not at the top of the list, they are frowned upon. So only when you are good, you like to reference them. But the sustainability rankings, they help us to be on our toes. So here in Germany, there is actually quite a powerful institution working on developing criteria which could play a role in such rankings, publishing sustainability reports, doing audits, and including sustainability in strategy papers. So I think universities should be sort of pushed into this direction. It's not necessary to add every aspect, but this is helpful in making it to convince people. When we look at it from some other perspectives, for example, because I listened to this presentation on the Freie Universität Berlin, but other universities have done the same. They promise to be climate neutral until 2030, 2040 or something. So the reduction of the carbon footprint, the commitment towards climate neutrality is an important issue. So and we have to work on our heating systems. We have to work on our, now here we talk about heating systems, and when it was -7 this morning, I felt this is important. But in Southeast Asia, we have to look at the cooling system. We have to look at the air condition everywhere. So the energy consumption and the CO2 implications of it. But more important, I think in the long run, we have to have other kind of buildings where we take advantage of smart architectural designs. Pay attention to sustainability in scope 3 activities. So when we purchase our tables, when we purchase our paper or so, we have to pay attention to it. Actually, it was nice when when I visited Indonesia some weeks ago, when a professor would open his own website on their server, then they would see on their website the carbon footprint of their activities. So, for example, if they used a printer of their faculty or so, then they would see the printing has consumed now so much CO2. So we have to sort of make sure that we realize, we see, and then once we see, we can act. What are the implications of what we buy and what we use? The appropriate travel guidelines, they are very, I mean, some universities are really strong on that. So use of economy class, use of public transport, instead of flights. I mean, here Osnabrück to Munich, that takes quite a while. So when I take a plane, it takes 45 minutes or maybe 60. But when I take the train, it's 8 or 9 hours. But some universities are saying national flights are not allowed anymore. Because I do quite a number of international projects, we agreed as well that some of the international projects will be done via Zoom and not anymore by coming together. Actually, I would have loved to go to Paris this time. So Philip, it would have been better. But all the same, I mean, it's correct. It's the way to go. That at least sometimes we opt to go this way. Serving food in the cafeteria. The same thing. I mean, if students see that we teach sustainability, but in our cafeteria, the food comes from far away and is maybe actually producing carbon or having a negative carbon footprint impact because of lots of meat or so, we have a problem. So this is my presentation. So my main argument is teaching is wonderful. So I learned a lot from your presentations. I think we go the right way. But what we have to do as well, and at least in Germany, there's still some way to go, is to really become sustainable campuses. And for that, we need to change our governance structure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this interesting presentation, and of course, welcome to visit us by train.
Yes.
So I let the floor to Christelle Garrouste, and then we will be able to discuss together.
Okay, it's better if I switch on the microphone. It's going to be easier. So it's hard to write last like this because, I mean, so much has been said already. And I must say that I fully agree with everything that has been said. I mean, what much can be added to that? What Professor May was saying about the green campuses, this should not be only another commercial tool or propaganda tool, greenwashing tool from campuses to just attract more students and get more fundings. Like this is the way it's heading actually right now. I really agree with you that this is the first big step that we should take and ensure that we can play a role of an exemplary role for our students and show them how things can work out in the proper way. I will actually talk a little bit about that too in my presentation, but yes, thank you for highlighting that because this is so true. So, okay, so I'm just going to try to move on here and just tell you that here in this presentation, I'm really going to zoom into what's taking place in the French ecosystem of higher education, and I'm going to present examples taken only from our department here at the IE International School. There are other things that are happening even at the UPEC campus, but I decided to zoom really on what we are doing here because we are dealing with business education, and this was really the thing that we all share, and this is something that I wanted to highlight. First of all, so here, this is basically how I'm going to organize my talk today. So I'm going to start by just framing a bit the context, because whatever happens here at UPEC depends on different regulations that take place. And these regulations are, I mean, we can say how much we want that we are innovative and whatever, but we are always innovative within a certain framework. And so we do receive incentives, fundings based on some regulations that are much beyond us. And the first thing to understand is that the French that France is within the European Union. So we depend on European regulations that are really guiding us in certain directions. And as I said earlier, when I presented myself, we do have incentives now to take a move towards greener approaches, both to education and to the way we do business in general. And this is actually helping us within within higher education institutions to implement the things that we have been wanting to implement for a long time, but for which we couldn't receive the right funding. So I'm just going to frame that up, and then I'm going to take some examples, concrete examples of what we do. So again, just as Gunnar said in his presentation, I mean, we need to understand that all this is not coming out from a vacuum. And so we are, as I said, in Europe, first of all, but Europe is within the world. And there has been a big resolution in 2015, the SDGs, and these SDGs are influencing politics. They are in the good way, not fast enough, I would say, but it does create a positive environment to start innovating a bit and launching the changes we need to change. The main goal that is actually ensuring this to happen is, of course, the education goal, the goal 4, but within that goal, it's actually all about the target 4.7. So you all know the target 4.7, so I'm not going to insist on that too much, but it says that by 2030, so by tomorrow, basically in other terms, we need to ensure that all learners, whatever their level, acquire knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including among others through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. Wow, this is huge. This is a huge objective. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that the way we conceive sustainable education today is able to englobe all these dimensions. If we manage at least if we can claim that we are targeting 2 or 3 of them in the proper way, then I think that already we are making a big step ahead. But by 2030, I'm not sure we will manage to touch upon all these dimensions in the proper way, but we'll see. Maybe I'm a bit pessimistic. Now, the second thing I wanted to highlight is that teaching sustainable development, teaching for sustainable development will help us actually reach other goals that we need to reach. And especially at the higher education level, we need to provide the right human capital skills in order to make sure that we can engage in the proper innovations to generate affordable and clean energy solutions, to innovate at the industrial level and translate all our initiatives into innovative forms of structures, modes of production, and infrastructures as well. And we also need to understand that what we are teaching our students at higher education level will have a direct impact on the behavior of the citizens of the next generation of leaders in terms of their production approach and consumption approach. So we're not only teaching the next producers, we're also educating the next consumers. And this is something we have to keep in mind as well. We have, as higher education teachers and lecturers, we have a responsibility towards that. So we need to make sure that we do share share with our students as much information we have about the consequences of not changing our modes of production and consumption, so that they can figure out how they can rethink their behavior and make the right moves in the direction that fits their own situation. And of course, climate action. Well, climate action will never take place if we don't produce the right skills to engage in climate action. So we do have a responsibility, whatever the discipline we are dealing with, to make these goals reachable. So the main question that we should ask ourselves is not whether we should do it. It's clear we have to do it. But the question may be to convince our colleagues and other institutions that are not yet convinced. The question is, what if we don't apply the ESD at the higher education level? Then in the paper I have prepared for the conference, I do investigate that a bit deeper. But here for this presentation, I just wanted to quote Akpese Ogbugwe, who is the Director of Advancement and Linkages Center in Nigeria. And she made an intervention at an MIT online seminar in 2017, where she said something that I think synthesizes well the consequences of not engaging in ESD at higher education level. She says that to ignore the higher education sector in these efforts would be to ignore the power of knowledge residing in the universities and the power of the youth. That's the point that I find interesting in contributing to responsible, critical, and effective decision-making for the future we want. And she does remind us all that half of the world's population is today under 20 years old. So the world of tomorrow will depend on how we educate those young people. So we need to make sure we provide them, we empower them to make the necessary shift. And she says also something else. She's raising a question that I think we have to keep in mind all the times. Well, can you imagine what will happen if this knowledge force and manpower reorients all learning and research for sustainable development? For people, dignity, planet, partnership, prosperity, and justice. Well, I've been asking myself that question, and I realized that, wow, given all the amazing capacities that our students have today, I mean, the students I meet during my courses, they have such a spirit, a positive spirit, and they want to make a lot of things out of the world, and they are convinced that change needs to be done. So I really think that if we help them, if we assist them in the right way, if we empower them sufficiently well, then yes, I think that things could change in due time. Now, how does France position itself in all this ecosystem? Well, first of all, as I said before, what France is doing is actually geared somehow by what the European Union is recommending. So the last recommendation from the European Council dates back from this very year, from the 14th of January of 2022, where they actually made clear recommendations about how learning for environmental sustainability should take place. And they're saying that they're calling member states to provide learners of all ages, so from kindergarten up to PhD level and even beyond, because they're also including lifelong learning. They really ask member states to provide those learners access to high quality and inclusive education and training on climate change, biodiversity, and sustainability. The truth is that so far, even if, as Professor Meyer was saying right now, we have more and more trainings that are opening, more and more majors and minors that are dealing with sustainability. This is still only concerning a small club, elitist club of students who are choosing themselves to go into these programs because they already believe that it is important. But what about the other students who choose not to go there and who are not yet convinced that there is a need to make a change? Do we actually manage to reach them and make sure that they will also be part of the change? I'm not so convinced that we are able right now of doing it in the proper way. So this is what the European Council is pushing us to do. They say that it should be accessible to everyone, not only to the ones who choose to do that. So that is going to be difficult to implement. They also say that we should establish learning for environmental sustainability as a priority area in all the education and training policies and programs. Again, from what I've seen in the different education reforms across Europe, which is also part of my research work, I do evaluation of education policies, and I don't see that this is necessarily the key priority anywhere right now. So it means that altogether we will have to really engage in a substantial change with that report. Then they also say that they're talking about the green campuses that Peter Mayer was also mentioning. We should invest, all of us, in green and sustainable equipment, resources, buildings, and grounds for learning, socializing, and recreation to ensure healthy and resilient learning environments. Now, you all know that we are just coming out from a big pandemic, the COVID-19, which has been actually a very convenient excuse for many governments to cut down some fundings, especially for research, but also with regard to infrastructures. And the education sector is not the least sector affected by that. And so it's going to be hard by 2030, or even before, if we need to make it even before, to catch up on the delays that we have accumulated on that. But okay, if they are recommending us to engage in that, it means that probably they can assist us in doing it. And let's hope that they have thought of that and that they have prepared some fundings for it. They encourage us also to adopt a systematic approach, meaning that we should involve the different stakeholders, the different, so within the higher education ecosystem, but also with the civil society outside our campuses. This makes sense. And this is the point here, they say they encourage us to mobilize national, but also EU funds for investment in infrastructures. I think that this is the key point for most universities in France, who are now claiming that they cannot afford investing in green and in green campuses. Well, obviously, there seem to be some solutions at the EU level, so we should make sure that we do engage in that and that we bid for those standards rapidly, so that we can catch up a bit with Germany, who seems to be much more advanced than us with regard to sustainability practices in terms of teaching, but also in terms of green campuses, because even if you don't have many of them, you still have much more than what we have. Now, zooming into the French higher education system, in France, it's very, very structured and very, how to say, calibrated. It's not easy to move outside the box. And our box in higher education is called the French Higher Education Charter. And anything that is not stated, printed in that higher education charter is very difficult to implement. So we need to figure out what kind of possibilities we have within that charter. So within that charter, actually, there have been 3 steps of evolution. Already by the years of between 2000 and 2010, actually the French government started, did incorporate the training of sustainable development in the charter, but only for specialists. And there it was mainly for the lifelong learning and for the continuous learning framework, where you had workers who could gain access to specialist courses, short-term classes that could lead to specific certifications that were very, very necessary, especially among the building industry and also for engineers. Then in 2010 and 2015, there was the creation of specialized digital models about sustainable development, and that enabled to enlarge a bit the number of participants to those certification modules. But it's only since 2015 that we have actually started to really move towards something more institutionalized. So we actually introduced those sustainable development modules within some institutions, but it was, again, mainly within the engineering schools. Some business schools started step by step incorporating them, but it was really mainly an engineering issue. Sustainability was difficult to be studied elsewhere than in engineering schools. This movement has accelerated in the very recent years. So it's only, I would say, 2 or 3 years since universities have started to really incorporate in their common core training the notion of sustainable development, and who are now working on designing competency frameworks of diplomas. So we are very late in France. So we have talked early about it, as you can see already in the years 2000, but it's only now that we are really trying now to make it in a more concrete form. So in December 2020, so exactly 2 years ago, the French government introduced the objective of raising awareness and training on the challenges of ecological transition and sustainable development in the education code. So now it's there, so we can start working. So 1 year after it was introduced, a little survey was run by Paxter, and they noticed that 69% of French institutions at that time already displayed at least one training that included the issue of ecological transition in their training offer. So we thought, wow, well, we're doing well, so there isn't much more effort we need to do. But the problem was that the way the courses were described was mainly in terms of jobs for which they prepared, but they rarely described the skills, the competencies for which they trained. And this is causing a problem in terms of recognition of those diplomas and for the labor market, but also when we want our students to travel around and sell their competencies outside the very near and close by ecosystem. So the definition of accreditable competencies in the field of sustainability is really the new challenge of higher education at the French level. But to be honest with you, working with other universities in Europe and having worked also in the US, I know that it's not only a French issue. This accreditation of competences in this specific field is really, I would say, a worldwide issue, because we still don't agree fully on what should be put into the frame of sustainability. And since it is an interdisciplinary competence, set of competencies, it's difficult to actually identify the wordings, the proper wordings that could fit into our very disciplinary frameworks that we have been used to work with for over 50 years now. So we need to rethink the way we define competencies in order to incorporate that interdisciplinarity that is naturally involved in sustainability. Now, what have we done so far? Actually, in March 2021, the Minister of Higher Education and Research and Innovation asked a working group to establish a typology of knowledge and skills that can be mobilized to reflect on the relevance of creating a training labeling system. So we are trying to move forward. And at the end, what this study revealed is that there is a need to fix a new objective. And that was actually endorsed by the Minister of Higher Education. And so that objective is that by 2027, so within 5 years, all students from French higher education will have benefited from this awareness in a systemic approach. So it's very important to look at the wording, because here we're not talking about having benefited from this competence training, but we're talking about benefiting from this awareness. So here again, we're very vague about how we're going to qualify that knowledge. Are we going to assess it? Are we going to create exams for it? Are we going to give ECTS credits for it? How are we going to make sure that the students can prove to the labor market afterwards that they really succeeded on acquiring those skills, that knowledge? How can we make sure that they know what to do about that awareness? So here there is a guide of competencies. So it's a competency framework for teaching, sustainable development, and social responsibility that serves as the basis for this work. It dates back from 2016, so it's a bit blurred on the screen, so I'm sorry you cannot see, but basically what they did here is that they defined 5 main objectives of this awareness. So they say that any awareness initiative at the higher education level in terms of sustainability should include notions of change, what it means to the need for change, to engage in changes. Then the notion of responsibility, social and political and economic responsibility. Perspectives, so how can we imagine the future now, given that everything needs to be changed? So how to make sure that our students will learn how to define new futures. We also have this notion of systemic approach that is very important to take into account. And we have also the fact of collectivity, of collectiveness. So we call it collectiveness, which means that it's a very broad concept to say basically that we need to make sure that no one is left behind, that you don't generate new discriminations out of this process, and that you proceed in a collective brainstorming way. Now, this is still very broad, and these guidelines, again, are absolutely not aiming at being used to evaluate students. So they are not very helpful in order to move forward to something more concrete. Oh, sorry. I managed to shift page. Yeah, there it comes. So this year, in 2022, in the same framework as the new objective that was announced, remember, we have to achieve 100% of students' awareness by 2027. Well, here they have tried to reformulate that previous guideline in a more concrete way, saying that, okay, we have considering a systemic approach. What does it mean? Well, it means that both the students and the teachers must be able to build a holistic vision of tomorrow's world to better understand the complexity of transitions, which means here that in this case, we really, so without naming it, we are talking about interdisciplinarity. But you notice that it's not mentioned in clear words, which means that why isn't it mentioned? Because in the French academic system, it's a bad word to talk about interdisciplinarity. It's still something that is conceptually not integrated in our academic system. We are only working from the research point of view in very disciplinary fields, and for our research to be recognized, we need to publish only in journals that are in our exact discipline of research. So this influences the way we teach, because of course we cannot teach something that we don't know. So this is the fact of considering a systemic approach from an interdisciplinary point of view questions also the way we do research. So this is really something that is now creating a kind of tsunami in the French education system, because it engages campuses, universities, to rethink the way they organize their research units in order to make them more thematic, so more interdisciplinary, and to be able to use that new knowledge, broad knowledge, in order to generate and disseminate a more interdisciplinary form of teaching. But that may take time before we are actually really able to do that across the country and in a systematic way everywhere. So for now, we only have local initiatives in that, to do that are based mainly on human, individual initiatives, and that are not yet systematized and institutionalized. Okay, I'm just going to move on forward with this. We talked about the need to have green campuses or sustainable campuses or whatever we call them. And in France, indeed, it's something that is now becoming trendy. We are talking about a new label that universities now are trying to obtain. It's the DDRS in French, which stands for Sustainable Development and Corporate Social Responsibility in English. So it's exactly inherited from the SD and CSR framework of 2012 that was already used internationally, but in France it arrived only in 2015. Now, until now, this label has been rather discreet in the sense that there have been very few universities who have even asked or applied for it. But since in the past 2 years, we see more and more universities really fighting to get it. And this is, of course, a very good thing, because it obliges them to engage in the compliance of 5 different axes about strategy and governance, education and training, research and innovation, environment and social policies. So that's a very positive thing. Now, the truth is that, as I said, so it came out in 2015. 1 year later, we had only 14 institutions, establishments obtained a label. 3 years later, a little bit more than twice had obtained the label. So we managed to double the number to up to 31 establishments. And right now, we don't have the latest figures because of COVID-19. Suddenly, that label could not be accessed easily, but we know that more and more universities are applying for it. But the truth is that, and this is something to take into consideration, in France, we have 75 universities and nearly 150 grandes écoles. So knowing that we have maybe probably today around 45, 50 establishments who have the label, out of that huge amount of higher education institutions, means that we are far from the goal that we want to reach. So there's still a lot to do. Now, the good thing, and I'm very happy about that, is that UPEC is among the universities who is really striving now, engaging into obtaining this new label. And this is also why we have the opportunities to develop the things that we're doing here. And this is also why I'm so happy to be at UPEC, because it's among the campuses that is really engaging in this. We have a vice president of sustainability, and we actually have a whole group of institutional coordinators who are really working hard on greening our campus at different levels. So this is very good. So we have this, we have the structure. Now let's just make sure now that we proceed in the proper way fast enough to make it work before the end of the mandate, so that we don't risk to lose those initiatives further on. Now, let us zoom into what we do concretely at the IE International School. So I have the great pleasure to have been given the chance to open a master's degree IE Sustainability and Green Business here within this IE International School. It was launched, the program was launched in 2019 at the M1 level. And so our first graduate promotion graduated in 2021. And the following year, we managed to open, we got the opportunity to open at the M2 level, an apprenticeship program that is running in parallel to the regular M2 program. And this is really a very, very positive thing, because it attracts a lot of students who are really eager to acquire this professional experience directly during their studies. So how does it work? So here I'm just going to show you a bit how we present this program to our students. So when we are recruiting them, these are the questions that I'm asking them. First of all, I'm asking them if they are willing to play an active role in the environmental transition. Do they feel that they could be proactive players in designing sustainable and resilient cities? I'm also asking them if they want to help private and public organizations rethink their business model to reduce their carbon footprint. If they want to assist the good practitioners obtain the recognition they deserve for their green business and fight greenwashing. And if they want to be eco-innovators and propose tangible solutions to global warming. What I tell them is that if they have answered yes to at least one of those questions, then they are welcome to apply to this master degree program, because the objectives of our program is directly to train them, to provide them with the right tools in order to find the solutions to the issues and topics I just mentioned. So how is it structured? Actually, we have we are mixing academic work with professional training throughout the master degree program. So in M1, for instance, they have training, they have courses only the first semester, and then they go for a 6-month internship the second semester, so that they can already put in practice what they've learned the first semester. And then when they come back for their M2, they can engage in research option the first semester, or go again into a short internship that is often the continuation of the internship that they've done in M1, because there are many companies that are asking them to come back and stay an extra 2 or 3 months to complete or to do extra work, and also to train the next trainees. The truth is that our students, they arrive with skills that are new and that are not necessarily yet and present in the companies where they go. And so they are actually not really playing the roles of trainees in the traditional way. They're supervisors on the job. They often learn from them more than our students learn from their supervisors. So their role is really to share with the companies the knowledge that they acquire with us. And so it's a lot of responsibility for us as teachers, as lecturers, because we know that whatever we tell the students will have an impact on the way the firms who will hire them for their trainees just after will perform or not. So we have to be very careful to not, as was said before several times, to not provide them with kitchen recipes where you have only with the set of ingredients, you come up with one final dish. We are actually instead of producing one dish, we are telling them, okay, where can you find the necessary ingredients in order to produce your own dish according to the setting in which you're going to operate. And with the same set of ingredients, we encourage them to actually come up with different dishes, individual dishes, and using also their own personal experience, their own personal culture, their own personal understanding of what sustainability and green business should be. In our master program, we have this year more than 17 different nationalities from all over the world. And this is so enriching. And they are coming, they have different backgrounds. Some are engineers, and some have classic business school background, business education background. Some are coming from law and have done public law and are specializing in environmental law and want to have this perspective of business into their training. Some have already had their own startups, or they have already had an entrepreneurship experience, and they realize that it didn't work, so they want to learn more in order to make sure they can correct the mistakes that they did. And some have worked for big multinationals, and they know that the way the business they observed was functioning didn't fit their values, so they want to figure out how they can move in their career into jobs that will match their values better. So we have a lot of different profiles. So it's not only a multicultural environment, it's also a multidisciplinary environment, just from the students' perspective, and also a lot of different types of experiences and maturity experiences that is making it very, very interesting. The brainstorming sessions are excellent, and students are really learning a lot from those exchanges. So we are really trying to, we don't want to change them. We don't want to calibrate them into one specific frame. We don't want them to have, okay, you are SGB student with a stamp and say, okay, this is how you're going to proceed. We want them to get out of this program and feel that they are better selves, so that they are still themselves, but that they have improved their capacities in all sets. So the first year, the mix courses and internship, the same the second year. As I said, they had this internship at the beginning, then they come back for courses the second semester, and then they end with a final long internship of 6 months that is making the link with the transition to the labor market. Usually the job offer arrives at the end with this final internship, and they can move into a full contract directly. Now, why did we organize it in this way? Because this enables us to actually give the option of double degree programs to our students, because then they do follow courses with us first semester of the M1 and last semester of the M2. And in the meanwhile, if they want to replace those internships with an extra curriculum experience outside in another country, adding an extra degree to their CV, then they can do it during this period. So from January of M1 until December of the M2. So they have 1 full year abroad, then they come back, they complete their courses with us and conclude with this long internship. This is a very interesting flexible mode, because it enables us also to adapt to the specific needs of each student. As I said, we have students who may not have been trained in business before, and for them to have this, but they have a professional experience already, so they don't need all these internships. But for them to have the capacity to upgrade themselves academically speaking with new teaching, new experiences, new methods, it's very enriching. So traveling around, coming to each of you and to get extra training, it's really a good way for them to move on and make sure they get the best out of this master program. And now since last year, as I said, we also give the opportunity to our students in M2 to replace the normal M2 by an apprenticeship. And this apprenticeship enables them to stay 3 days in the company and 2 days on campus. This is a very good way for them to apply directly the skills that they are learning in the classroom. They're applying them directly on the job, and they're also bringing back in the classroom the experiences from the field. And they're telling us, well, this doesn't work in my company. In my company, we do it better in this way. So this enriches us as teachers, but this also enables us to have very interesting brainstorming sessions where everyone is bringing in its own experience. And it also helps the students to get a regular salary thanks to this apprenticeship. So throughout that last year of studies, which is also a very good thing. Here we have pictures from the integration day that was organized at the Foundation Good Planet that is located in Paris, and that was created by Yann Arthus Bertrand, who is a famous ecologist, French ecologist. And we had the chance to be hosted by them a full day. And this is on the picture here, you see students from bachelor level and master level, M1, M2, apprenticeship, non-apprenticeship. They were all mixed together. And this was one way also to make them engage in this collaborative activities together across levels. And we participated to a challenge that is called Ma Petite Planète that lasted 3 weeks and that we launched that specific day. Ma Petite Planète, oh, by the way, here in the background, you see all the SDGs posters, because this was really the main topic of our day. We worked on the SDGs in an applied way with different activities around SDGs. So with the Ma Petite Planète, and this is an application that you download on your cell phone, and that enables you to engage in challenges, environmental challenges that are each covering specific SDGs, so specific sustainable development goals. And we created teams, so interlevel teams, and they were competing with themselves, but also with other universities and other companies, because it's also open to private companies in the whole territory in France. And so every day we were checking what is the position of our team, can we do better, what should we improve? And those challenges were really dealing with how we behave ourselves in our daily life. So I was, of course, doing the challenge with them, and I had to say that I learned a lot about the way I proceed. I had the feeling that I was actually acting rather green in my way, in my daily life. But then I realized that I had to do even more if I wanted to really reduce my carbon footprint. And in that challenge, you really measure your carbon footprint for all the activities you're doing. It's extremely exciting, and the way it's done is very pedagogical. And this was a good way to launch the programs, because then we zoomed back to these different activities within the coursework, and we made sure they could relate to them. And it was easier to sensitize them on their own individual capacity to change, to make a change. So this is an example of activity that we do and just outside the classroom, but that is important. I have to say that I wish we could do more outside the classroom, like our Norwegian colleagues are doing. Unfortunately, being in Paris, it's very difficult to take the students out of the campus. We have a lot of rules and regulations for security reasons. So the insurance, the student insurance does not cover them if something happens outside the campus. So we are limited with our outdoors activities, but we do try to figure out solutions still to take them out. For instance, that integration day today took place during a weekend, and we are allowed to do whatever we want outside the normal time schedule of students. So this is how we do. We try to organize things outside the normal course hours. here,
I will not interrupt, but if you can, take 5 minutes in order to let room for discussion, because I
yes,
see that
I
there
will
are
speed up.
30
Sorry for that.
slides. So
Yeah, no, I'm speeding up. Sorry for that. It's difficult. Yes, I'm going to speed up. Thank you. So here is the list of the different courses that we run with them that are specialized courses at the M1 level. We have sustainable development, environmental innovation, sustainability planning and analysis. And we also have a set of seminars that we deliver both in M1 and in M2 on global green business issues. And these seminars, they really help us to keep track of all the new novelties that are taking place in terms of how we assess and account, for instance, CSR. The accounting frameworks and assessment frameworks for CSR policies are changing continuously. And so to teach them, it doesn't make much sense, because by the time the students arrive on the labor market, the framework we taught them is already obsolete. So what we do instead is that we have field practitioners who come every week and who speak to them and explain to them what is happening on the field and how things are moving. And so it's also a way for them to get to meet those practitioners and also negotiate contracts with them. But it's also, and most of all, a good way to keep in touch all the time with the realities of the field, so that we don't make our work too theoretical, so that we always link everything we teach to the reality. In sustainable development, we are making them work really on the SDG goals and on the ESG targets at the company level. So we are making them adopt a macroeconomic perspective with the SDG goals. We make them compute statistical works on that, and then we make them also work with concrete company level data to compute the ESG scores of different sectors of activities. So they have case studies to work on. So they select one country and then they have to identify specific sectors of activities they will want to investigate, and they have to run their individual study on that. And they get coaching throughout the semester to make sure that they produce at the end a reporting format that is professional and that really makes sense, and that they can sell to show their competencies to run an analytical work on this topic. And on environmental innovations, we also make them work on the assessment, on an assessment report of the feasibility and potentialities of specific eco-innovations. So they work in teams and they have to choose one specific eco-innovation and they have to assess it fully. They have first to identify what is the nature of that eco-innovation, what is the potentialities of it, is it feasible in terms of business model, how could it be improved, how could its feasibility and potentialities be improved by redesigning the business model, what is the diffusion capacity outside its initial market. And this is also something that the students like to do, because they work first of all in teams, but they also learn a lot about how to collect information and how to put together all this different information into a valuable analysis. Here we see the students who delivered a final presentation for the classes of Mr. Bordeaux, where they presented it in front of the guest speakers who were presenting at the seminars. And so they were actually making a synthesis of what all the things they had learned over the semester, incorporating the experiences from the field presented by the external speakers. And at the M2 level, we increase our specialty set of courses with corporate social responsibility classes, where we zoom into the different aspects of the financial impact of CSR strategies. We explain to the students that CSR is not just about being nice and having a positive social impact on the populations outside, but it's more and more simply a financial tool to make sure that you rate your company at the highest level on the stock exchange market. So it's actually a tool that a strategy that can very easily be used as a greenwashing tool. And so we are really trying to make them understand that by making them use the financial devices and assessment tools that exist. We make them work on a green business project that obliges them to build up a business plan, to develop a business plan from scratch on one specific company for which they have to identify a business problem and solutions and propose a new innovative business model. And so this takes the whole year, and they have to make use of all their classes to do that and make use of their internship experiences for those who go on internship, and for those who are in apprenticeship, they work jointly with their companies in order to identify the topic that will be investigated in that green business project and to make sure that their business plan will fit the needs of the company. So there is this interaction with the companies directly all the time. Like what we said, what was said by our Swiss and Norwegian colleagues. Here we have, this is a set of the companies that are hiring our students and are trusting them to help them transit towards greener activities. As you can see, there are some that have been largely accused of greenwashing in the recent years. So it's actually exciting to see, to send our students there and see how they can make sure that that greenwashing will end. And we have, of course, opened at the bachelor level as well. So here we have a set of classes on climate change, where we take the earth scientist perspective and we present the economist role in explaining why political actions has been so slow in being put in place. We also have classes in development economics that do present what our colleague was saying about the growth and degrowth models. Classes on smart cities, where Mr. Bordeaux is taking the students to exhibitions on smart city in Paris, and where the students can engage with the different stakeholders and launch surveys and analysis for them directly. And we have this course on change management for environmental transition that will start in L3, that hasn't started yet, that we will do jointly with the University College of Østfold, and we look very much forward to that. So we really want to improve and enlarge this all these activities through joint courses or classes, joint activities, short mobilities, and further double degree programs, and especially in priority with you, with each of you, because we know that what you're doing is exactly what we need for our students. So we really want to make sure that we give that opportunity to our students. We have a lot of things that are happening outside this very institutional framework of bachelor and master degree programs, even for the students who are not engaged in those programs. At our faculty, we have amazing professors who are teaching about climate change and SDGs, about environmental and societal responsibility of the firms, and about societal innovations and new business models. Since we don't have time, I'm not going to present you who does what and how much is done about it. But I just want to say that we are very lucky to be very efficient in that learning. I just want to zoom into the 3 professors, 3 lecturers who are very active in these fields, outside again the specific programs on sustainability. We have Christina Tschech, who is a German lecturer at our place and who is teaching. She's helping our students to improve their German skills at the business level and in business communication, and she's incorporating environmental issues largely at the bachelor and MA level. We have Felipe Koch, who is doing that in Portuguese, and Helen Mendler, who is doing that in English communication, intercultural management with our students. I want to simply applaud our professor, our colleague Philippe Koch, who made it possible for his students to win the first prize of the public for a social innovation that was that actually received, that participated in an entrepreneurial challenge that is called Pépite 3EF. Out of 75 teams of students, they managed to obtain the prize of the public. So it just happened now this week. So I just want to applaud them and congratulate their professor for making it possible. We also have Helen Mendler, as I said. She's really, really good at making sure that sensitizing our students at all levels, at the bachelor level, about microplastics, everything that has to do with global warming, fast fashion, greenwashing. These are topics that she's really making them work on through brainstorming sessions, and she's really contributing a lot to this systematic shift of education of sustainable development. And then I just want to show you one little video to conclude from that is one example of how sustainable development can be taught in a non-classic way. Christina Church is asking our students to create videos, to record videos on different themes. And so she makes them know, among other things, think about how the German youth address this issue of climate change. And so she's obliging them to collect a lot of information from the different media, German media, and then she asked them to write a script and record a movie. So the movie we're going to see, it's just an abstract of it, is from a set of students. They have, you will see two Indian students who are celebrating the festival, the Ganesh Puja festival on the campus of UPEC, and there is a lake, and they are throwing in the lake a statue in plastic. And then you see the debate that is launched with another student that is also living on the campus, asking them why they did that, how they could pollute the lake in this way. And so they engage in this debate about cultural differences, about religious issues. And the idea here in this video at the end is to say that, okay, well, we all have a responsibility for what is taking place about pollution. Just going to show you a short abstract of it because it's just a way also to show how useful this kind of teaching can be, because these students are beginners in German, and you will see how much they have learned just by doing this activity.
Hallo, ich habe Sie vorhin gesehen, wie Sie eine Statue unter Wasser gesetzt haben. Darf ich fragen, was Sie da gemacht haben? Hallo, wir feiern den Ganesh Puja. Ganesh Puja, was ist das? Ganesh Puja ist ein religiöses Fest der Hindus. Die feiern den Gott Ganesh. Es ist ein Fest, das mehrere Tage dauert. Es ist traditionell am letzten Tag der Feierlichkeiten eine Statue mit dem Bildnis unserer Göttin in Ozean zu versenken. Aus diesen Gründen befanden wir uns vorhin in der Nähe des Sees. Ich verstehe und schätze die Kultur sehr, aber sie werfen nur in den See. Es ist eine Aktion, die trotzdem wertvoll ist. Aber Frau, es ist immer noch eine Statue. Das ist keine Antwort. Ich sehe Ihnen das nicht, um Ihnen zu widersprechen. Aber ich möchte, dass Sie sich der Konsequenz bewusst werden, die solche Handlungen anbringen. Sehen Sie, was es bewirkt. Das ist in India.
Maybe we can end here because the network is not good.
Alles, was die
So normally the
Während
video is
dieser
better.
wird bereits, aber wir tun es im Namen unserer
Just for you to know, they are French. I mean, so they are speaking German, and German is a rare language, not as rare perhaps as Norwegian, but I mean, the students. So it's also something very. I mean,
They do quite well.
yeah.
I could recognize it as German.
I can confirm I'm
so
German as well.
It's our colleague, so and she's attending the session. So this is Chase that is doing a very good job with our students, and they are, I mean, also very committed with these transitions and sustainability. And you want to finish with this quotation, so I will let you read.
Yes, I just want to end with this, because I think that, okay, there are so many examples I could have shown you, because so much is happening now. The main thing, my main conclusion is that we noticed that actually we should start as early as possible with this teaching about this education about sustainable development. We shouldn't wait until the master degree program. We shouldn't wait until they have already tested, made experiences of entrepreneurship before they come back to us. We have to launch that as early as possible, and indeed to systematize it into our programs, because we see tremendous results out of it. So this quotation here is again from the same amazing Nigerian woman that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation that I really adore. She says that it is said that inspirational learning only happens when you have truly inspirational teachers. So the mission of SDGs in higher education is not just about new courses or buildings or about pushing the barriers of light and recycling, but also about inspirational teachers, students, and campuses, about learners who are willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think that this is the spirit that we should keep in mind. So thank you all for your attention. And yes, I'm sorry it took so long, and I hope we will still have time for questions. Thank you.
So thank you. And you will receive the slideshow, so we will make it circulate for each of us. It's, so now we have still a couple of minutes for the discussion, maybe more if you can. Yeah, so I see that Mrs. Burki, you want to.
Yes, thank you. I've raised my hand here very quickly because unfortunately myself and Dr. Kleva will have to leave to a meeting that was not set ideally in terms of timing, I must admit. But I just wanted to share a bit of a contribution from the research side, from the doctoral school side, because maybe this could then feed the discussions when we have left. So what I wanted to share is we talked about mistakes. What we've learned is that we've discovered in the doctoral school conducting research that currently there is a word that was only pronounced once. Christelle pronounced it. I was looking for that word, greenwashing. And there are a lot of companies who want to do research on sustainability and want to transform, but as soon as you want to gather data and to engage in a discussion, there's nobody. And the word greenwashing is frightening. So also we try to make impact and to have those students work on questions related to sustainability. That is a reality we cannot ignore. So this need to change has to be linked to a regulatory, let's say, framework context, ESG, CSR reporting. Then it gets far more easy. We had a candidate working recently on branding and basically communications in the luxury industry and on sourcing and supply chain, sourcing of diamonds in the luxury industry. And it's very difficult to get real information. So I think greenwashing should really be kept into mind when we try to help students transform and also when we try to engage into research. And the other thing is that this question of sustainability and sustainable transformation in companies, it's a bit like the implementation or application of entrepreneurial methods. From the outside, when we are experts, we see where it should be, but often the transformation that's happening is invisible. So we only see it from the outside. Once we see a company has changed the business model, we know, oh, they might have been pivoting, but we don't witness the process. And it's the same for sustainability. Certainly we realize there are some good performers and some bad performers, but it's difficult to witness the transformational process. I just wanted to share this perspective from the, let's say, research side, working with companies and businesses on those questions, and with students who are active in the business, because we don't have PhD level students. We have people who, again, are working in companies and it's their problems they want to solve. So I just wanted to share that one. And I will mute myself again. And I'm unfortunately going to tell you all goodbye. I hope we can meet again, either in Paris or online, and that we have the email addresses. I'm looking forward to further discussions, but I will have to leave you here, and I think Dr. Kleva as well. So thank you very much for all the discussions. It was very interesting, inspiring. And I would have a million questions also to the Norwegian team, because you seem to be very active, and I'm wondering, how do you do that? And how do you engage in such technical topics with your students when they are in the leadership track? So that's really a bit of a mystery, because you engage a lot of technical and innovation resources. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you.
I also have to say goodbye, but I see, Mr. Food, there was a question from me on the chat.
Yeah,
If you're kind
so it
enough
was
to put me through the person, I will answer personally to the person, because it's a bit long to explain the whole process, how we gain acceptation. I thank you, all the participants. I just want to give one takeaway that click into my mind. Thank you to today's presentations that I didn't have before. So I thank you all for that. I realized that in our hurry to move to change, we must not forget maybe one angle, which is has been touched a little bit also by Crystal, with this idea of obsolescences of framework. Maybe we can do a little bit more than just having practitioner. Maybe we should care a bit more here about the what, because I think that's where the higher education capacity of research and being up to date should be, because we had a sustainability club event, and it was the theme was how to get a job, a green job, basically. And there I realized, because we have had those events regularly, now we can really see some professional skills that have a name and that have certain type of reality. And I think we should also, that's my takeaway. I made a note for myself. I must think about that more, and because we have some responsibility in the field. Okay, sorry, we have to go. Thanks a lot for the presentation. Mr. Foot, make sure to get me through the person. I will write the answer personally, and have a good end of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I see that Tammy has raised your hand. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I really wanted to thank you so much for those presentations, and I'm really happy I came here, I mean, virtually on the seminar, because actually it really gives me hope, and I'm really happy to have heard all what I've heard and seen what I've seen, because it's really fitting my vision, though I haven't been teaching for a while, because I decided to actually to challenge maybe myself, because I'm a researcher on the ocean and I teach a lot about the ocean. I really wanted to experience more the sea and really go to the field and feel the reality, and come back with concrete examples for the students. And also I was going to different schools in the different countries and different workshops. And I really think that what has been shown is that as a teacher, you always gotta adapt and be flexible, be ready to change. And somehow I'm thankful I've been traveling at sea for 4 years, because it's also enhanced that, like pointed out even more, because you always have to, you have one direction, but you always have to change, like per hour, per days, or per month. You never know what you're going to get. So it's yeah, it's really important when you teach, I think, to be flexible and to be ready to challenge. And I also see that sometimes it was said in the first presentation that sometimes people are afraid of changes, but I think we should not be afraid. And that's actually when I remember some lessons where I really had to change everything. So we talked a lot about interdisciplinary aspects for sustainability. And I was actually one of the only social scientists in the group who wanted to face biologists and managers and historians, and like to do an interdisciplinary a course. But that was the most challenging, but also the most interesting, because I always had to create, recreate, adapt. And that also showed, and you show that a lot in these presentations, like you have to let the students create. And so though I was in amphitheater, I don't know how you say that in English, amphitheater. Okay. With 150 students, I told myself, no, I can't talk to them. I can't do a lecture of integrated coastal zone management if they don't themselves try to build together, like with biologists. And I can't just tell them how to do. They should themselves figure out and talk within their disciplines. And above all, they didn't know each other. So in this big, with 150 students, I say, okay, I just take paper and you just gather in groups. And I change my structure because I don't think that's going to work. We have to decide and create yourself your own concept and how to have a systemic approach, integrated vision. And so, so I think that's really, for me, that's really important to let the students also create, discuss, brainstorm, and then as a teacher be there to guide them also for the theory and the basis of the disciplines. And there's also, so the sense of the field, I think also that has been shown a lot. So with what they've been doing in Norway, on how really you got to act and go concretely and sense what you're doing. So I found that really inspiring and motivating, actually, to see that. And what else? Because I know that time is short. I saw some words like be positive in Christel's presentation. I see a lot of students who are really negative, and they also in primary schools on the project I'm doing in Martinique, they have only catastrophic vision because the teachers also tell them only negative things. And I really find important to bring hope and to make aware the students that they can change things at all ages, important, different stakeholders that you've seen, that you mentioned, important too. And also like this systemic approach, and not having, when you work with different disciplines, often it's like put on the side, but if the different disciplines together don't talk or don't gather before teaching the systemic approach, for me that can't work. And that's where the ocean is a really, for me, this is a really good example too, because you have to think the ocean also as a system, and that's what we're doing with a seascape and oceanscape concepts, on how to integrate the different visions and how to work with the community so that themselves they identify also the issues, and by making them experience more sorry, it's rolling. I'm on a boat actually, and sometimes there's a ferry and it moves. Sorry about that. Okay. So it's really interesting actually field, the ocean, to talk about all these approaches. And thank you so much, because I see hope, and I'm relieved to see that some people are thinking of my way too. Thank you for all your presentations.
Thank you. I don't know if Gunnar, you want to say something?
Just a comment. I have to run now, but it was very nice to hear all the presentation. They were very different from very different perspectives. So it was very like gave a lot, because I think it's important to see it from different perspectives to add all the possibilities. So I like very much the entrepreneurial thing. I like the campuses having to be green to get credible. and also the structural and the curriculum and the programs that you have developed at UPEC. So I look forward to the way forward. So I hope we can get the papers later, Philip, so that we can read in more details, because it was a lot of details that I missed out on. So I look forward to read the full papers also.
Yes, indeed. So I will collect them, and then we will try to publish it for January if we manage to do it, or maybe beginning of February.
Yeah.
So it is the objective, but indeed, maybe and for me, as I said at the beginning, it's a beginning. So I really would like to share also experiences from other countries, and maybe to create this joint seminar series in order to think about what we can do, what is functioning, or what is not functioning well, and why. So that's also very important. So I've got also a lot of questions for each of you. In fact, maybe I will later. So perhaps I don't know if Professor Meyer has something to say or to add. But I've got some, so the number of students that are concerned in order to see if we can reproduce things or not. And that's,
but we can discuss them on the paper, because we have of course all the details. And I will see you in January, Camille, and hopefully I can visit you at UPEC this spring. And all of you, and that is Peter and everyone, that you are welcome to the Lighthouse project. That is one of our clustering project where Camille was with us this year. It will be in the week 38, and it's out on a lighthouse. So it's really a lighthouse project. So you are all very, very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All the best to you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So I will have to leave as well, but it was a great pleasure and honor to participate. Let's stay in touch.
Well, no, it's for us. So, thanks to all of you. It was, very interesting, and we learned a lot of things. So,
thank you to you.
So
it was really inspiring. I mean, I got so many ideas when I heard everything, and I just thinking, okay, yes, there is a way. We will manage. We just have to continue with what we're doing and do it even better. That's the way.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I have to go actually now too, because my batteries are not charging on the boat. So I was like,
yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.